Welcome to the stage, guys. So I suspect a lot of people in this room will know both of you very well already, but just in case there's anybody streaming in, anybody who hasn't met you yet, I'd love you to give the elevator pitch, and we're going to start with your good self, Paul.
Thank you very much. So my name's Paul Foster. I'm the CEO of Crucial Compliance. We specialize in compliance consulting around the world, and we've also built innovative technology that manages player protection, including AML, RG, affordability, and it's an all-in-one system. So that's what we provide, and we're generally here to help anybody who needs it.
Okay, nice invitation. I love it. Brilliant. And coming over to your good self, Nick.
Yes, thank you, Oisin. My name's Nick Hill. I've been in the gaming industry for the past 20 years and have various roles. One most notably, for 9 years, I was CCO at Every Matrix and exited there in 2017, where I set up Premier Chain, which was a consultancy business getting involved in blockchain technology, more so on the processing side of things. But as I started to understand more capabilities of what blockchain has and the more attributes that it had as a utility application, I started to move more away from sort of the crypto processing side of blockchain and into the applications of how it can be used as I say, a utility application and benefit the iGaming vertical. So recently I've been appointed as the sales director for nChain, and working collaboratively with Crucial Compliance to deliver a solution that can help with compliance and responsible gaming.
Fantastic. It's so great that you're actually working together already. You can talk about the collaboration here on the stage. Now, Nick, I'd like to stay with yourself. Now, you just kind of mentioned that your kind of area of blockchain at the moment that you're working in, it's not coins, it's not money, it's the more operational side. And I think this is really interesting. It's a topic that's not often discussed at conferences, I feel, because a lot of the focus is on the actual the coins and that side of crypto. Talk to us a bit more about blockchain as a utility. How did you kind of come up with this idea, because it kind of flips it on its head, and what's it all about?
Well, basically, blockchain, as I say, it has two sides. You've got the coin side, which is processing, with digital gold and assets. But on the other side, it is a utility application, and it can be used for transactions and micropayments, transactions, the ability to be able to notarize and store information on a immutable ledger, which is time-stamped and a trusted source of truth. And it also provides total data integrity. This is the key thing, that when information is stored on chain, it is true. It is there. It's there for perpetuity. It can't be tampered with. So you have total data integrity. So you have a full audit trail of that information. And that information could be documentation. It could be customer interactions between the operator and the player. It can be a whole host of iterations that are stored on the immutable ledger of a blockchain.
Right, fantastic. We'll absolutely come back to that. It sounds a bit like an insurance policy. So, something's set in stone. It doesn't matter where it has to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It is an insurance policy.
Okay, fantastic. That's brilliant. And Paul, coming over to yourself, I've heard you talk previously, both of you, about the nature of the iGaming industry. It's very fragmented, but it's very international. And even in a territory like the US, you're basically dealing with 50 plus individual countries in terms of regulation. How can blockchain help with this, and what's your kind of take on the scenario there?
I think the key thing here is it's coming back to what Nick just said. It's all about data integrity. When we start looking at compliance and regulation across the world, it is very different. There are some core strings around Europe with the 6th MLD for money laundering. But when you start looking at other territories like the US, you've got different rules. So when you're trying to actually store lots of data for regulatory purposes, it can be very difficult because it's all stored slightly differently. It's internationally stored, so you may have different data centers, you may have different systems, and it can all get very confusing. So the whole idea that you can have one single source of truth by putting that data onto the blockchain suddenly starts to solve a lot of problems that operators have today.
Indeed. So basically, this solution, it kind of sits on a level that's maybe above a single operator. It gives you like that unified view of the customer, no matter what operator they're working in or kind of using. Now, what's the kind of aspect of silo smashing here? Because industries can be very siloed. This department doesn't talk to that department, but what you're saying is basically, matrix style, there is no silo, and blockchain proves it.
Yeah, and it comes back to people have been scared to use blockchain, mainly because of the coin side of it and because of the crypto side and the concerns around AML, whether they found it or not. There has been a lot of negative ideas, especially in the gaming space. It's been slow to really embrace it. So by actually turning it on its head and taking that blockchain and actually using it for compliance purposes and regulatory purposes, so that the actual blockchain becomes the regulatory backbone, you suddenly flip it on its head and you start looking at it in a different way. And if you have that ability to use a data source that anybody can access if they know the string, then all of a sudden that data can be shared under GDPR rules, obviously, but also it can be shared, it can be accessed by those who are allowed to look at it. So it is a great way of being able to look at data in a different way across multiple operators if needed, but also with the regulators. You can share with the regulators the data streams of your customers, their behavior, and what they've done.
Interesting. I was going to ask GDPR, so you just covered that question. Thank you very much. So it sounds like a tool that's very useful for the industry, very useful for regulators in particular, and it's sort of like a very transparent approach, which I really like. But Nick, talk to us a bit about the kind of overlap between your two companies. I mean, you've got the Paul with the front end and how it's like a B2B platform. But how do you fit into that, and what are the kind of ingredients of nChain there?
Right. So basically, Crucial Compliance, they have their CPP product, Crucial Player Protection, which is integrated into a operator's site, and they have a number of markers of harm that basically a player will trigger if they're wagering or they're acting out unusual behaviour. They're gambling irresponsibly. They're doing things that they're not doing normally. And once a marker of harm is triggered, we would then look to put all the communication between the player and the operator on chain, so that there's this immutable ledger. There's the event stream, a sequential event stream of all the interactions with that particular player, so that should there be any form of recourse from a regulator, from a player, or any form of litigation that could be happening, there is this immutable ledger to go back to that's time-stamped, and you've got total data integrity there, so that the regulator can then be appeased that the operator did what they said they were going to do, that they suggested a play break or a timeout, they suggested setting a deposit limit, whatever it may be. Because as we know, the regulators are coming down quite hard on operators with fines and penalties for regulatory infringements, whether it be AML, whether it be responsible gaming, and this sort of negates that. And it goes back to what you were saying, Oisin, it's almost like an insurance policy. So everything's on chain so that you can refer back to it, and then you've got your insurance policy to say, look, regulator, I did everything that was asked and some more.
Brilliant.
To appease, to identify at-risk players sooner and interact with them sooner to get more sustainability from them.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about sustainability. It's very important to be on the right side of compliance, obviously. But Paul, talk to us about, what's the front-end experience? How does your company overlap with Nick's company, and what would a typical client in this room experience?
So Crucial Player Protection is a player protection platform that basically manages and monitors all the player behavior. And what it then allows to do is automatically interact with that player based on whichever behavioral triggers they're showing or markers of harm. And the user experience is quite simple because it's designed by compliance for compliance. So it is actually a day-to-day usable system. You manage the player behavior on there, you review players, and you have a full audit trail of everything that that player has done. So instead of the old days when we get a call or somebody internally says, how much do you know about this player, and it takes us 15 days to pull various BI reports, several different system reports, it's all held in one front-end system, which is joined at the back end to all of your disparate systems. So what that means is you press one button, and 2 seconds later you get a full player review of that player. And the beauty of that is that it's then storing all that data within CPP, and if you then take that storage of data and put it on the chain, you suddenly have a front end that is day-to-day usable, that's very effective at managing player behavior, where you can interact with the players, and then you can prove that no matter what happens in the future, what you did, when you did it, and how you did it.
So like each company would have their own instance of CPP, but then you kind of have access to the mothership, and that's where the kind of protection and the blockchain comes in. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So each company will have their own access to the blockchain. They will store their data on there.
Right.
And then again, we can see it, but so can the regulator if they need to.
Fantastic. Okay, right. I like that. Great. And you mentioned data integrity earlier, so the kind of open question to both of you. I mean, this sounds, it sounds like a very sensible, very much needed collaboration of product. It sounds like something that's useful for the entire industry, regulators to operators. But are companies taking data integrity seriously enough? Is this ringing the alarm bells that it should?
Yeah, I think the regulators are starting to cotton on to this. A few years ago, I was involved in reviewing a case for a company I was working with. When I went to the team, everybody knew this person. Everybody knew what they'd done. We thought we got really good controls over this person. It was all to do with responsibility. However, when it came to proving it to the regulator, we didn't have the evidence. And the simple reason was the company had moved platform twice. They'd changed the back ends twice. They'd also gone through 2 mergers. So the data was gone. And the problem with that is that although everybody internally knew that they'd done the right thing, we actually got fined several £1 million because we did not have that data integrity.
Wow.
We could not prove what we had done. And so everything that we've been working on ever since that is to look at how do we manage that data integrity by having a system, first of all, that manages the player behavior and logs it, and then where can we put that data so it doesn't matter if you go through a merger and acquisition, it doesn't matter if you change platforms, it doesn't matter if you do a new data warehouse, that data is stored forever, and your player protection data is stored forever, and that is the real insurance policy.
Amazing. Okay. I mean, a few £1 million, that's not a small fine.
It isn't.
It is absolutely worth keeping an eye on this stuff. What would be the process of a company getting involved? Say, mention the company there, they've had a few mergers, they've got a data lake over there and a filing cabinet over there, and it's all a bit disconnected. How do people kind of get started with this stuff? What help is there available? I guess if anybody's watching and thinking, oh no, that sounds like my company, what would you say to them about getting things sorted?
It's about trying to find a single solution. Within compliance world, you have several different solutions, maybe one for AML, one for RG, one for KYC, one for affordability now coming up. And the main aim is to be able to get one single view of your customer. And once you get that single view of your customer, be it through a strategic data warehouse or a viewing system like CPP that also does the management, then you can actually get started with managing that player. No matter what happens within the business, you will always be able to pull that data together. And that's what's key.
Okay, very good. And coming back over to yourself, Nick. Now, we've heard, how this works, what the experience is for the companies involved. But, of course, you're providing the plumbing, the pipes that make this all work. And there's a lot of data there, a lot of behavioral data. Obviously it's GDPR compliance, you've got the players in mind, the regulators in mind, but are there any kind of things that people should be aware of in terms of the capability of blockchain as an operational tool in iGaming? This is one of them, but it sounds like it's, that there might be some other things, Well,
the blockchain is infinite. You can basically do anything that you want to do. Yeah, it's like, we've come up with, since being here, we've come up with ideas of using the blockchain for game certification. because with the game providers, they're constantly releasing new content, which has to be certified. It has to then be uploaded. The regulator has to have access to it. The operators and the aggregators have access to it. And then, if you loaded that onto a chain, you could load it up once from the content provider, and then they give the keys to the operator, the regulator, and it's there on chain. So it's there on the immutable ledger. And it's protected. It's there.
Yeah.
So that's another application you can use. You can go into AML. You can go into KYC, KYB. It's infinite, because basically it's a digital thumbprint of a documentation of an event, of a sequence of events. So it's there for perpetuity. So it's infinite.
Fantastic, right? And it sounds like a solution that's designed to work across multiple jurisdictions, multiple countries, multiple brands, etc. Have you got any kind of examples of this in the real world that might be kind of worth sharing? I mean, in terms of like deploying it on a global scale.
Well, yes, we're working with a company called Company with a K, and they provide sort of KYC, KYB services.
Sure.
And so working in sort of the financial services market. So this is sort of outsourcing MLRO and a KYC for documentation, KYB. So if you think of a large company that has to conduct a lot of know your business on their payment service providers, or it could be their affiliates. In the gaming space, it could be all the businesses that they're interacting with can benefit from using this certification process, to store the documentation. There's also a project that we're working on with a large healthcare firm in the US, EHR Data, where we are looking at sort of managing the opioid crisis, so that people can't have repeat prescriptions, because it's all being managed via the chain, and all the information, all the prescription information is stored on chain, basically. So there's lots of other applications for this in other verticals, but obviously my chosen vertical for the past 20 years has been iGaming, and this is the one that's experiencing sort of pain points at the moment with regards to regulatory conformity and compliance, as well as penalties and reputational damage for particular big brands. They certainly don't want it.
Yeah, 100%. Wow, and that's incredible about the opioid management. That's absolutely brilliant. That's going to save a lot of lives. Absolutely amazing.
Well, that's what we hope.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely. And I'm curious to know, how did this come about? Because it's such an interesting collaboration. It flips blockchain as we normally talk about it on its head. What's the kind of background between you guys working together?
Well, basically, I started consulting with nChain about 15, 16 months ago, and they were looking at a way to sort of productize their platform, Kenzie, which they've recently launched and released, in fact, in July, of how do they target the iGaming vertical. So they brought me on board as a consultant to explore how we can look at the iGaming vertical and how we penetrate that. And I've gone through various iterations. I've looked at the affiliate market, I've looked at RGS, random number generator, provably fair gaming, and going down that sort of journey, it sort of naturally came to, we need to get involved with CRM systems. We need to sort of track player behavior. And that's when I sort of stumbled across sort of the responsible gaming, and then did a little bit of research on the internet, and hey presto, bumped into Paul here, and we just started chatting, and this sort of concept came along, and it was the light bulb moment. And it's a hot topic that's being discussed right now, and that's basically sort of how we sort of got together, really, and devised this product suite. Paul's already doing it, but it just gives it that little bit more, dare I say, credibility, in that the data is true. It is honest, it's transparent. The regulator can view it, the player can view it, the operator knows where it is if they're going through M&As, and as you know, there's so many different databases out there, so it's just holding it in one sort of centralized place.
Fantastic. I love that. That's absolutely brilliant. Bit of serendipity in there as well. Very nice. As is often the case, especially at great events like iGaming Next. And Paul, coming over to yourself, I mean, you've probably got a very good insider view on the number of companies that are using this kind of solution versus the number of companies that should. I mean, as a percentage, would you like to take a guess about, how many companies are using it and how many should, and what would you say to any companies who are not using it?
I think most companies have got some form of a system built in, even if it's just algorithms now. So
Yeah.
I think most regulated companies are already taking the challenge on the head. I think if you then look at how many companies have got a solution that's fit for purpose, that vastly reduces, because there is a huge cost, as everybody knows, to developing these systems. There's a huge challenge internally, because you've got to convince everybody from your CEO to your tech team. You've got to get on the product roadmap. You need PMO resources. So, when you start looking at the industry as a whole, probably less than 20% of the industry is using good quality systems. And that is down to quality of those systems, which isn't always there, availability and cost, simply. People don't want to invest in compliance.
Yeah, but it sounds like something you don't want to not invest in. It's not a problem until it really, really is.
Indeed.
Speaking of which, what's the response been, from the industry, from the regulators, to all of the connected parties?
It's been really positive.
Cool.
We've been out talking to all the regulators. We've been setting the standards in some of the Eastern European countries. We've been talking to the regulator here in the UK. They love the idea, because their big problem is they want a single player platform that manages player behavior. They keep talking about it. You deliver that to them. And then the next thing they go on about is data integrity. So it really is perfect for a regulator to have the companies using a quality system that delivers what they need with the data integrity. It's just everything they need. So they've all been very supportive and very positive. And even just today, and yesterday, talking to people in the room, which I can see today, it's been really positive. So yeah, we're really enjoying it, because it's an opportunity. And we're solving a problem which is good for the player.
Yeah, totally. It does sound win-win, win for the player, the regulator, the operator, it's all good. Is there anything coming up next that folks should know about? Or if they want to work with you, where should they find you both?
Yeah, generally at the bar. But yeah, you can always find us. We're a bit like the A-team if you need us. You can generally find us. Yeah, we got a lot on the horizon. We're developing a lot of products, and Crucial Player Protection is continuously developing. The collaboration with nChain, and we've got several other really great collaborations to strengthen the product even more, which are coming out in the next few months. So we're always happy to talk to it. You can get us through our website, or generally go to the bar and you'll find us. But I think this has all come about really because of the conversations Nick and I had, and when he brought it to me, I was very skeptical, not because of the blockchain, because I really believed in that, but because of the cost, because I believed that the transaction costs were too high, that it wasn't flexible enough. And then, lo and behold, he tells me about nChain and the nChain platform, and all of a sudden, it is cost effective to keep that data. And all of a sudden, you have a really easy API to be able to upload the data, and it just changed everything. It was like a light bulb moment between us. We just sat there and went, oh wow, this could work.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is that insurance policy moment, Insurance is something you don't need until you really need it, and you're glad that you had it there in the first place. And Nick, what's coming up from the world of Nick? What's in the future?
Just to elaborate on what Paul said, the nChain platform is basically providing a bridge between sort of legacy technologies and the new technology. Well, it's not a new technology, but the technology of blockchain, because there's a lot of math in blockchain. It's not an easy technology to work with. So what nChain have done is they provided this bridge so that it's just basically an API integration. So it's integrating into your existing systems. So it makes things very simplistic. So it's just API calls. So all the hard work has been done, so you don't have to know about the actual blockchain, but all you know is that the immutable ledger for your data is there, and it's stored for perpetuity on a single source of trusted truth. So, and what's coming up? Obviously there'll be more features and more developments, but at the moment, the product's called within nChain is called Certify, and it's sort of event stream, a sequential event stream notification. A digital thumbprint of an action, of a document, of an interaction with a player, whatever it may be. Whatever.
Fantastic. And how long are you both in town for? Are you going to be at the bar this evening?
Yeah, we're here
Well,
till
you know me,
Saturday.
Oisin.
I do.
We'll definitely be around for a few days.
Okay, fantastic.
Making the
Well,
most of
listen,
it.
you want to speak to the guys there, they will be at the bar, as will I. Ladies and gents, please join me in thanking Nick Hill and Paul Foster.
Thank you.
Thank you.